But if you say to them, you've got to put your family's home on the line, that's where a lot of people say, that's not for me.
Every great entrepreneur I've ever met is a risk manager. I had to put my house on the line. I didn't tell my wife, and I hope she's not listening. She probably doesn't know to this day. You can't have a UK distribution centre in Scotland, and that's the best motivator for me. Just watch us do
If someone tells you can't do it.
It was £296 million. I was going to turn it down for 3. How stupid was I? He went, I'll toss you for it.
Really?
Toss a coin. If you win, you get your prize. If I win, I get my prize. And I won.
Wow, fantastic.
And he never chipped the prize 1 penny. It's a great line from Alex Ferguson. We don't know what we're going to do without you, but I'm going to give it a go. Bye-bye. And Warren Buffett actually gave me that advice personally.
Did he?
Success is a lousy teacher. What's the worst that could happen, Alan?
Sir Tom Hunter, welcome to the Bulletproof Entrepreneur podcast. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining me.
Please call me Tom.
Will do. Will do. No, thanks very much. I know you're a busy guy, sparing some time with us. I think it's excellent. Appreciate it. I'd like to go back, if I may, Tom, just to the early days, because funnily enough, you and I come from roughly the same area.
Amazing.
That's probably where the similarities end. You went one journey and I went on a slightly different one. But you're from a small village called New Cumnock.
New Cumnock. Well done.
Yes.
Well
now,
done.
for those who don't watching or listening to this, who
Who've
don't
never
know
heard
New
of it.
Cumnock, which is probably most of people,
Yes.
tell me about New Cumnock and tell me about your early days and your upbringing.
Yeah, so New Cumnock's in South Ayrshire, so southwest of Glasgow. It was a mining town, deep coal mines, the pits, and probably 90% of the male employment in New Cumnock was down the pit. And it was a good job. It was a hard job, but there was plenty of work for those who wanted to work. And everybody in those days wanted to work. And my dad was the local grocer. He had a shop and he had a mobile shop, which was a van.
Yeah.
And he would have been the third generation who was in New Cumnock in the shop. And my dad was and is my hero, no longer with us, I'm afraid. But so I used to love going into the shop. Probably my earliest memories, maybe age 6.
Wow.
And that's where I learned to buy and sell and, understand what it's about. And a few of the life lessons from my dad was be saying, look, the people who shop here pay our wages. We got to take care of them. So he did the old folks party, supported the bowling club and the working men's club, etc. So
Amazing. Yeah.
you don't know that at the time, but those things stick with you.
Yeah. And that's probably quite unusual nowadays, isn't it? That's kind of like an old school customer focused service, really looking after the people and recognizing that these people pay you wages. So let's look after them.
Yeah. So it's a great life lesson.
Yeah.
You don't know it at the time, but looking back, that's stuck with me, and I'm talking about it just now. So
No, exactly.
obviously it's stuck with
All
me.
these years later.
But yeah, those formative years in the shop were great. But then, going back, and this, I'm probably the oldest person you've ever had on this.
No, you're not.
No, no, really, no. So going back 1984, there's a miners' strike.
Yes.
I was the only person in this village, 5,000 people, who liked Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, I'm sure.
So Margaret Thatcher was closing the mines.
Yes.
But I liked her because she came up with this thing called the Enterprise Allowance, which allowed you not to defraud the country by signing on the dole and trying to start your business. She said, no. If you want to start your business, you can get £40 a week. And I did that.
Right.
And that helped me. So I was the only Margaret Thatcher supporter in a mining village in South Ayrshire. Didn't make me popular, that's for sure. So 84 miners' strike, the mines never reopened. Never reopened. So I watched my dad think he was a failure because he had to shut the shop.
No customers.
No
There's no money.
customers.
Yeah.
And there was 2 other grocers, and one of the grocers came and he said, "Look, Campbell," my dad,
Mm,
"we all can't survive. Eh, can I give you a few quid?" And it was a few quid, and I'm just gonna shut it,
mm,
but I'll still be here. So that's what he did. But my dad put a small amount of money in with a guy called Davy Hammond,
mhm.
who was manager of the Bata Shoe Company in Cumnock. And but he wanted to sell shoes,
Okay.
but run about market stalls.
Mhm.
So I went off to university. Not that I wanted to, but my dad wanted me to, and I would do anything he wanted me to. So I went off, and but I would come home at the weekends and look at the returns from the market stalls, and I basically found that trainers
Mm,
were a big part of what they were selling.
mhm.
So I then took a couple of market stalls and tried to learn what was going on. Um, Graduated from university, nobody would employ me. I've actually never had a job.
Have you not? You've
Never,
never been employed
never been,
by
never had a
no.
job. I mean, it must be something within me that people looked at me and said,
He's unemployable.
I'm not giving him a job," and thank goodness.
Yes.
And so I couldn't get a job, and I went on a course at Glasgow University. I'd graduated from Strathclyde, which was for unemployed graduates who wanted to
Okay.
start a business, and it was brilliant because it was practical. It was about cash flow.
Mm,
It was about balance sheet, and they put you out into a company to try and
okay.
get your chops
Yeah,
and
yeah.
learn. And I get put into, well, the first business I went to was a newspaper called the West End Times
Okay.
in the West End of Glasgow, up Ruthven Lane.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
know it.
yeah, yeah.
The viewers and the listeners from down south would have an idea what we're talking about. But anyway, and I went in there and I thought, right, okay, what we're going to do. So I looked at it and I said, right, circulation's the problem. So why don't we make it a free sheet, increase the advertising to editorial
Mhm.
percentage, and then, listen, I'm never short of a brass neck. I went to the owner and said, would you sell me the newspaper?
How old were you?
So I'm going to be 21.
21. Wow.
And I get called into the university and they said, Tom, um, you have contacted, and the ultimate owner was Sir Hugh Fraser,
Right, okay, yeah,
which was House of Fraser
sure.
Harrods, he
Yes, of
used to own.
course, yeah.
And I went, yeah. And they went, you can't do that. And I went, well, why not? He said, well, look, these companies are good enough to give people like you a chance, and you get and try and buy it.
By the company.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to chuck you off the course.
Oh,
And I went, oh, don't do that. Send me somewhere else. I promised to behave. Of course, it's a false promise. And then they sent me into a company that had developed an industrial toasty machine for the pub trade.
right,
And my job, because they hadn't did their beta testing very well, so my job was to go out and collect the toasty machines they'd paid for but weren't working.
right.
And the first question everybody asked me is, right, son, can I have my money back? And I
Mm,
said, look, I'm only the driver.
mm. Yeah,
But the thing that company had was a big warehouse.
okay.
And that's where I began to think about what I could do with training shoes. And I thought, right, I can't afford a shop. Why don't I put training shoes and jeans together? So I made up a letterhead. My girlfriend at the time could type,
Yeah,
and we made up a letterhead. We lied through our teeth. I lied through my teeth. Said I was a fast expanding footwear retailer. I noticed some dead space in your denim shop. And would you like my shoes? And one of them remarkably said yes,
wow, okay.
which was an incredible thing. And I didn't have any shoes. I didn't have any money. And it was down in the northeast of England, a company called Keen Jeans,
Okay,
part of Peter Stores PLC. I borrowed my dad's car, his suit, his shirt, his tie, and I drove to North Shields.
right.
And they said, yeah, can you do it in Leeds, Aberdeen, and Sunderland? And can you do it next week? So, of course, I tried to keep a straight
Yeah,
face. And I said, yeah, listen, we're flat out. The shop fit teams are flat out. I need to come back to you. So I remember driving back up the A69 over to Ayr, where mum and dad lived, because I was still living with them.
yeah.
And I said, Dad, they said yes, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any money. I don't have any shoes. What am I going to do? And he went, right, okay, son, let's sit and work it out.
Yeah.
So he lent me 5 grand,
Right.
um, debt, not equity.
Okay.
Very good for
Yes.
those accountants on the
Yeah,
watching
people
this.
who are fundraising
Yes.
prefer debt than equity.
And
Yeah.
I could write a business plan from my university days,
Okay.
and I got 5,000 from the Royal Bank of Scotland. And I, but no supplier would supply me. Nike, Adidas,
So
Reebok.
you're having to go to these big brands to get the shoes.
And they said, no, we are in the sports business. We're not in the fashion business.
Yes.
And it was a cottage industry, Alan,
Yeah.
in those days. And they, the retired footballer
Yeah.
had the Adidas contract in air,
Yeah.
or,
That sports shop they would
yes.
have. Just yeah.
And it was a closed shop.
Right.
So I said, right, how am I going to disrupt this? Not that I knew the word disrupt,
Mm.
but I just thought, like any entrepreneur, there's the barrier. How do I get round it, over it, under it? How am I going to solve this? So my dad and Davy Hammond were buying shoes, because they wouldn't supply them either.
Hmm.
So they were buying shoes from wholesalers in down in a place called Bakeup in the Rosendale Valley in Lancashire.
Okay.
Old mills that entrepreneurs had turned into wholesale. And you would go down there and you would say, right, what have we got this week? Right, we've got some Nikes this week.
Okay.
Love them. And so there was no continuity of supply, but
Right.
I got started.
Hmm.
And and that's how it started.
That's how the whole journey began, really.
Yes.
So I'm just reflecting on that. I'm joining a few dots. You'd grown up in clearly an entrepreneurial background. Your dad was
Yes.
a local.
Business was talked round the dinner
It
table.
was run
That
dinner
was my
table.
education,
Yeah.
Alan.
And you were in the shop and you saw customers come and go. And your dad taught you, look after these customers. But also,
Yeah.
I guess some products were more profitable than others. And you begin to understand that.
So the interesting thing about groceries was, and even then, going back
Mm.
to the early 80s, we were in a business where our competitors could sell cheaper than we could buy at.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
used to sit with the list, and there was KVIs,
Mm.
known value items.
Okay.
In those days, and I'm taking you down memory lane, 80 Tetley tea bags,
Mm.
2.2 pounds of Tate& Lyle sugar, a bottle of Smirnoff vodka.
Right. Yeah.
So these were products that the customer knew the price of.
Right.
And I used to sit with my pen and I would go, right, the wholesaler is this price, but Cooper's Fine Fare are selling that Smirnoff cheaper than I can.
Mm.
So I used to go down to Kilmarnock and go into Cooper's Fine Fare and like 4 cases of vodka.
Just buy retail off the shelf.
And I always remember the wee wifey behind the till going, "Son, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm having a party." But I seem to be having a party every week.
And you take it back and sell it in the
And
shop.
and we would make, because those were the lost leaders.
Yes.
Um, and if I burst a bag of sugar
Mm.
transporting it, all the profit from everything was gone. We were making a couple of pennies and things.
Okay.
And I said to Dad, "This isn't. We can't carry on in this business." But of course, he was.
Mm.
Now the decision was made for him,
Yes.
but I knew that wasn't a business for me.
Yeah, it wasn't
But
going to be long term.
but what an education!
Yes, for sure.
What an education!
For sure. And the other thing that springs to mind is this kind of, I mean, it's called nowadays, fake it till you make it. You're showing up and say, of course I can supply shoes to you.
Yes,
No, I don't know where the hell I'm going to do this. How am I going to do it? So that's clearly a trait that you've developed over the years, or you kind of had from day one, didn't you?
I. It, I'm always looking now, because we coach entrepreneurs to
Yes.
start and grow their businesses, and
Yeah.
I'm looking nature or nurture.
Yes.
I think that was within me,
Yes.
and you don't know why, do you? I don't know why,
You
but yeah, a brass neck they call it in Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that intrigues me is because when we're talking about when the shoe business begins to take off, is it 1980s,
So
90s?
it's 84. I
Right.
start, but I'm starting in other people's stores,
Yes.
and so a typical week for me. First of all, my dad's car came out his garage. That was now my distribution centre. And I bought a Toyota Hiace van with a column shift.
Right.
Don't know
Yes.
if
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
remembers them. It used to hit your knuckles every time you went into third, but anyway. And a typical week would be load up the shoes, go to Sunderland, drop off because they would send me the sales. It was in their shop. They would sell it.
Mm.
They would send me the sales and supposedly send me the money once they deducted their commission. And so I would every week go to Sunderland, deliver their shoes, speak to the staff, make sure
Mhm.
they were right, go to Leeds,
Mhm.
do the same, then go to the suppliers. What have you got this week? Then drive back, drop that in air, and then drive up to Aberdeen,
Mhm.
do the same there. And that was it. So for the first 5 years, I was on my own doing every job.
Wow.
And that was the hardest time of my life
Yeah.
because there was nobody else. And my dad was there for sure as my
Yeah.
mentor, but um, I
So
was,
you're doing the actual work and the delivery and
I'm,
sourcing, but then having to do what the accounts and stuff at a
yeah,
weekend and just
yeah,
everything.
everything. And when I look back, those were the toughest times. And that's why nowadays we're trying to help people by the first thing we do with entrepreneurs is we give them a network. We give
Yes.
them a peer-to-peer
Yes.
support and learning.
Yeah.
Alan, how you doing? What's on your mind? And once the trust builds, you'll say, well, Tom, I can't pay the wages this Friday. I say, well, I couldn't pay it last Friday. Let's sit down and see if we can solve it. Now, I didn't have anything like that. I thought every challenge I had, nobody in the world had ever had
Yeah.
that challenge. And of course, there's
Yeah.
not many new challenges.
There's very few.
Very few.
And I think this is one of the ideas behind this podcast is to
Yeah.
do that, is to share some of these stories. I often think if you speak to entrepreneurs and business owners just casually, how are you doing? They'll say, amazing, great, all good. And then you
So,
go again, how you really doing?
so that's it, Alan.
Yeah.
So we bring people, we'll get to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we bought a castle, of
Mm,
course you do.
of course.
20 bedrooms in Ayrshire,
Yeah.
and we pull people together. We think cohorts of 12 people work
Hmm.
the best, and there's different levels. There's pre-scale, scale, and really the ones who are really going to scale. So there's 3 different levels, and when they come together, they don't know each other. How
Yeah.
you doing? Everything's great. By the time the trust builds up, I say, "Oh, well, I'm in the shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do," and then we try and solve the issues.
That's great. We'll definitely
Yeah,
come back to that. But I really
I'm
like
getting
the
ahead here.
no, that's fine. There's a lot to talk about. I like the idea of I want to call it learning by doing, which is something that you've done. I've been speaking to a number of early stage founders, startups quite recently, and they were spending too much time, in my opinion, talking about the logo, the brand
Yes.
logo, and the business card,
And
and
this
all the
last cell in the spreadsheet.
last cell on the spreadsheet, the font of the blah blah blah.
Have
And I
you
said,
spoke to a customer?
have you? No, no. But that was the thing. You just went out there, and because everything's about sales, isn't it? You've got to go and get customers.
Yeah.
So you went straight
And
out there.
so learn by doing, if I ever had a tattoo, that's what it's going to
Yeah.
say. And that's what we coach.
Mm,
What's the worst that can happen? They
right.
say no, but you learn something. I,
Yeah.
I had this conversation with my Uber driver on the way here, and he was saying he was thinking of starting, and I was saying, right, do it.
Mm,
He said, well, I don't know if I'm ready. Well, you'll find out
yeah.
and you'll learn.
Yeah.
And but that's it. Learn by doing. And you learn so much. You don't learn anything behind a spreadsheet.
No, you don't.
You,
Just when it's an idea,
you just don't.
and even failing is feedback, isn't it? So the market
Absolutely.
doesn't like that idea. So let's
Yeah.
find another idea.
And and I want to talk about failure on,
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
because especially Scottish people, we don't want to talk about our failures.
Mm,
I want to talk about failure.
mm. We will do that. Before we do that, I want to talk about success.
Okay.
We'll definitely come to failure.
Okay.
The other thing that does it kind of interests me is the idea, and I've just been sort of doing a bit of research for this and looking back in those days, and I'm old enough from in the 1980s, and so it was very unusual for people to wear trainers other than playing sport.
Yeah.
And now, people go for dinner wearing trainers. People in the boardroom are wearing trainers, and
Yeah.
it became they call it. I'd kind of vaguely heard of this term before, but now I was reminded athleisure.
Athleisure.
Athleisure was a thing.
Yeah.
So prior to that, it'd be you wouldn't walk into a restaurant with a pair of trainers. You wouldn't be allowed in.
No.
And now it's just commonplace.
So
So
that
that
was
was a
my luck.
social trend.
That was my luck.
So my question to you is, was it just luck, or had you spotted that and saying, "I'm going to ride the wave
No,
here"?
that was luck.
Was it? Right.
Pure and utter luck. I was looking at sales from market stalls, so
Mm.
I could see, okay. And
So
if
that
I'm
was data feedback. You're saying
and
these are selling.
and if I'm honest,
Yeah.
and I don't often tell this bit of the story because this is right at the beginning. The biggest thing that my dad and his partner sold in the market stalls was slippers.
Okay.
And I took a stall in the Glasgow Barrows and tried to sell slippers, and it was a total and utter failure.
Right.
Now, I could have just given up,
Yeah.
but then I thought, well, what's the second best? And it was trainers.
Yeah.
So total and utter luck. No
Interesting.
market research, no total addressable market.
No,
All this great stuff that we talk about now, I'd never heard of any of it.
it was just these seem to be selling quite a lot of, so let's jump
Let's
on this
give it a
band.
go.
Let's just try and sell.
Let's
And the whole world kind of changed. And I think through sports and music and all that was happening at the time, people started wearing trainers.
It did, but it took me 5 years to build up enough capital to open my first shop.
Right.
So, people look and they think, goodness, that's an overnight success.
Mm.
There are very few people
Yeah.
of overnight success. I don't think I've ever met MD.
Me neither.
And so it took 5 years, and the first shop was in Paisley, and it was only 300 square feet. It was probably about the size of this
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so but looking back, that was me serving my apprenticeship,
Mm. Yeah.
and it's so important.
Mm.
I mean, it was hard. I mean, and as I added more stores of other people's stores, you know, I was trying to fit more and more into the same 7 days.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow. But 5 years, first shop.
At 5 years, are you still by yourself, or you begun to hire people?
I have hired someone on a YTS,
Right. Which is what's it? Youth
youth
training scheme.
training scheme,
Yep.
um, really going back now. And it was a guy called Scott Cottingham. And Scott was brilliant because he stuck with me, and he ended up being the IT director at a business I owned called Office Shoes.
Okay.
So,
Mm.
but Scott started, and I picked him up from his mum and dad's house at 5:30 a.m.
Mhm.
and I dropped him back at midnight. And his mum gave me the biggest row, and I said, "Yeah, I understand, but that's the job.
Yeah.
If Scott doesn't want to do it, I fully understand,
Mm.
but I'm not going to kid you. That's what I do every day."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Scott stuck with it, and he became the IT director of one of my other businesses.
Fantastic. What a story. So, but at this point, you're still you're sourcing shoes, selling them to other retail outlets.
So I'm putting them in Keen Jeans.
Yep.
The staff are selling them on my behalf,
Mhm.
and they take the money, take a commission,
Mhm.
and send me the balance.
Right. And at what point did you say, "I'd like to own the retail outlet"?
5 years,
5 years
because I couldn't
later.
afford it until
Right.
then.
Right.
I always wanted to do it, but I couldn't afford it.
Right. So where was your first store?
Paisley,
Right.
35A High Street, Paisley. I signed a personal guarantee for a 25-year lease, 5 years, upward only rent reviews.
Okay.
It's
Right.
amazing what you don't know.
You found out later.
I would never give MD advice to sign that,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
did.
That's a tough lease.
I stayed with my mum and dad. What's the worst that could happen?
That's a recurring theme as well. What's the worst that could happen? And when you went, and that was sports division.
No, it was
No.
called Shoe Division because we were
Right.
only doing shoes.
Right.
I then, and this is the luck, I call it luck.
Mm.
Um, and analysing this as I have,
Mhm.
I went to a supplier day because some of the suppliers, not all of them had came on board, and I bumped into someone at the supplier day and they said, "Tom, have you saw the shell suits in there?" Now I was only doing shoes at the time, and I said, "What's a shell suit?" And he said, "Oh, you got to go and see it. I think it's going to be big." So I went in, saw this shiny, Now,
Yeah.
Alan, did you have a shell suit?
I think it
You
did.
did.
I think it did once. It's
Of
like a shiny tracksuit, isn't it?
Yes.
They were very popular for a while, may I
And
say.
anyway, I went in there, and long story short, we became Europe's biggest seller of shell suits.
Wow, what a claim to fame.
But if I hadn't if I hadn't been in that position, not bumped into that person, and then went, "Well, let's try it. What's the worst that could happen?"
But that's something else I find interesting. I call it like increase the surface area of luck. Some people say, "Tom,
Yeah.
you got lucky, you met that guy."
Yeah.
And I know there's been a few other instances
I
of people
had
that
to
you
turn
met,
up.
you had to turn up. I think that's something I've been thinking about recently. Since COVID, we've moved into a kind of Zoom world where just I'll jump on a Zoom call with you. There's no substitute for in person. And
Alan,
showing up on spec, I don't know what's going to happen. But
nobody comes and knocks on your door
no,
and said, "Here's the best thing ever
yes.
for you, Tom.
Mm,
You got
no,
to
for
go out.
sure.
You got to turn up."
And it's those organic kind of of the moment, conversations you have. You see that, and then you join a couple of dots, and you say, "That's interesting." And
Yeah.
so that happened. So Shell Suits
So then we
was a
went
breakthrough,
into sports division. So
right?
the next shop is selling sports shoes and sports clothes.
Okay,
And then I went to America and I saw, in those days, there's no internet, remember,
of course, yeah,
just for
yeah, yeah.
context. My kids don't believe there was ever a time with no internet, but there was no internet, no e-commerce. So it was just shops.
Mm,
And I went to America and I saw a brand called Sports Authority. And
mm,
these were big and out of town
yeah,
retail, big sports superstores. And
yeah,
I said, that's the future.
right.
And I came back here and we opened our first sports superstore in Teesside Retail Park down in the Northeast. Northeast been very lucky for me.
Hmm.
And there was only myself and Olympus Sport at the time who were doing out of town.
Okay.
And that was a game changer for us.
You really take off then.
Really took off. And so we had real momentum. And so if we move the movie forward to
Mm,
1995, started 84, first shop 89, 1995, we're about the seventh biggest sports retailer in the UK. We're making £4 million profit. I have paid off all my borrowings, including my dad. He didn't want it, but I gave him it back in a handsome interest rate, not equity.
yeah, yeah.
And something within me, and I think it must be nature. I don't know what, and even to this day, I don't know. I wanted to be number one.
That was just a competitive
I
thing,
just had to be number one, and I had good people. I had brought good people on,
right?
and the thing about building a bigger business is you can't do it yourself.
Yes.
You can have a great small business yourself. It's not much fun, but I was really into bringing the best people I could on early
Hmm.
in the journey because I had a feeling we were going to do something. I didn't know what it was. And the biggest in the UK at the time was Olympus Sport,
Yeah,
you might
I
remember,
do.
and they were part of Sears,
Yes.
and but they were losing £14 million.
Right.
So one of my suppliers said, "Okay, I'll introduce you to the chief exec." So I went down, and he treated me with disdain. You know, who?
Well, you were a tiny little upstart
Yeah,
compared to him.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Although you're
make
making
I was
profit.
making 4,
Yeah.
he was losing
Yeah.
14, remember?
Yes.
And he was like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" "Oh, no, no, we're the biggest." So again, there's an obstacle.
Yeah.
Decent entrepreneurs go, "Okay, as one door slams in your face, somebody's there to trip you up.
Yeah.
How am I gonna get round it?" And I had met this guy called Philip Green,
Of course.
because he had just bought a business in Scotland called What Every Woman Wants,
Mhm.
and my friend, who ended up working with me, becoming my right-hand man, ran that business, and he said, "Tom, you gotta meet this guy.
Mm,
He's amazing."
mm.
So I'm like, "Right, fine." And you turn up,
Yep.
and Philip was like nobody I'd ever met, larger than life,
Yeah.
doing deals. I'd never done a deal in my life.
Big deal maker, wasn't he? Famous for the deals he did.
Famous.
Yeah.
And so I met him in an Italian restaurant. Within 3 weeks, because I thought, I'll never speak to him again. I said, "Philip, I think there's an opportunity to buy this. I don't know how to do it. Leave it to me." And he came back and he said, "Right, Tom, good news, bad news. Good news is got a lockout for a month. Bad news is I've got the lockout. You got to deal with me."
Ha! Always doing deals.
So that was a learning.
Yes.
And I said, "Well, how does this work?"
Yeah.
And anyway, we got the deal done. Um, I had to put my house in the line. Philip didn't have any money to put in at that time.
It's all borrowed, isn't it?
So I had to put my house in the line. I didn't tell my wife. I wouldn't say to MD to do that.
No, you wouldn't recommend it.
And I hope she's not listening. She probably doesn't know to this day. And but the house in Troon actually,
Right.
and where you're from.
Yes.
And so Philip and I did a deal, and we did a deal, and that was it. He didn't have any money to put in, but he could do something I couldn't,
Right.
and I learned an awful lot from him, good and bad.
Mm.
And and I didn't turn up until the settlement meeting, and I was raising the money,
Mhm.
and it was one of these big lawyers' offices in London with, the view and all these lawyers. And Philip had kept me out of it until then. And then I turned up and they're all going, "Well, who's he?"
Mm.
And Philip said, "Well, you better let him in because he's got the check."
Right. So Philip had fronted the whole thing up till then.
Yeah.
Right.
So I came to a deal with him. He got equity. He got a bit of cash. I gave him that. And then, but it had nothing to do with the running of the business because I had a great team.
Can you
He,
say what you paid for it?
so I can't quite remember, but it was something like we paid maybe 25 million.
Okay.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
it was, I mean, it was a big deal
Big deal.
relative to it. It was the largest in the country. As you say, in terms of turnover, revenue, they were 10 times your size.
10 times. So I am now the proud owner. And there's myself, Ian Grabina, who had
Mm.
worked for Philip. I
Yeah.
said, you better come and help me. And a guy called John Kinnaird
Right.
from Scotland who had been working with me. But these were brilliant guys, and I had
Mm.
real confidence in the
Mm.
team. And I said, right, what are we going to do? Well, it's 10 times bigger. I've now got 7,500 people,
How many did you have before?
700.
Right. You 10 times everything. Yeah.
But it's amazing what you don't know. What's the worst could happen, Alan? And I remember going down to Leicester. Their head office was in Leicester, and they all knew I was going to close it. I was going to move it to Scotland.
Of course.
I
Right.
had great people in Scotland, and
Mm.
I knew I could get great people. And I was going to build a distribution centre in Scotland. Everybody told me you can't have a UK distribution centre in Scotland, and that's the best motivator for me. Just watch us do
If someone
this.
tells you you can't do it,
And we actually bought the old Massey Ferguson tractor plant in Kilmarnock,
yeah,
where my wife Marian's father had been the shop steward.
it's nice.
And it didn't have a roof on it when we bought it. And I remember writing these orders for Nike because you ordered it 6 months in ahead, and they were saying, "Right, what's the address?" I said, "I'll come back to you."
Yeah, I'll let you
I
know
didn't
nearer
know
the
if
time.
I didn't know if I could get the roof on it. Um, so, but we just sat with everybody, and Ian Grabina and I went to Leicester, and I always remember there was a sign on the wall that said, "The light at the end of the tunnel's been turned off due to economic
Right.
circumstances."
Yeah.
So we had to get out of there as quickly as possible because they were downtrodden, and not many people came to Scotland. I tried hard because there were some good people in that business.
Yeah.
And what Philip had done, which was very interesting, he had said the board of directors
Mm.
were all highly paid.
Yeah.
And he said, look, we'll take them on for 6 months, but at the end of 6 months, we've got to put back on the parent company at no cost if we don't like them.
Okay. A quick pause. You might not be aware that this podcast is a passion project. It's born from my commitment to supporting entrepreneurs through the business stages of scaling up, selling, and then life on the other side. It's the same work we do at Capital Partners, our boutique wealth planning firm, which is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs to gain clarity around their money, their aspirations, and ultimately achieving financial peace of mind. With over 20 years' experience of working with business owners, our team brings deep insight, strategic thinking, and clarity to what can often be complex decisions. So, what you're really looking for is a trusted advisor, someone who understands people like you and can offer thoughtful guidance at the intersection of business, family, money, and life. In other words, someone to act as your strategic thinking partner and your financial coach. So if that resonates, feel free to explore more. There's a link in the show notes to our website with tools and resources to support you on your journey. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
So after the first day, Ian and I sat down at night, had a pint. I said, well, what do you think? And I'd interviewed every one of them. And every one of them told me the same story. Tom, you've bitten off more than you can chew. You don't really know what you're doing. So, I'm making 4, you're losing 14. Yeah, okay. So Ian went, I don't know. I said, right, get them all in the morning. All right, okay. So it's a great line from Alex Ferguson.
Mm.
So we got them all in and said, we don't know what we're going to do without you, but I'm going to give it a go. Bye-bye.
So you fired them.
Oh,
Wow.
because they would have been a drag.
Yes.
My team were all
Mm.
determined, good people,
Just
hard
energetic,
workers.
positive.
The energy was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
They were all, "Oh, well, it's a complicated, you're losing 14,000,000. What is" so I just thought, "Well, get rid of them."
Mm.
Now, would I coach that today? I probably would actually,
Yeah.
but you gotta have faith in your own people.
Sure.
And we
Yeah.
just moved it all up to Scotland, everything.
Yeah.
And that was that was amazing. We were now Europe's largest independent sports retailer.
Is that what
O
you became?
overnight,
Europe's largest.
overnight,
So you've hit your goal. You're number one,
we're number 1.
which you wanted to do.
It's amazing.
That is amazing. That's a great story. I'd like to just go back a second or two because the starting point of that story was you borrowing money and putting your own family house on the line.
Yeah.
Talk to me about risk. For most people, this is this whole entrepreneurial thing, and I speak to lots, and you say you'll speak to someone in an Uber or wherever. I've got my idea when I set
Yeah.
up. But if you say to them, you've got to put your family's home on the line. That's where a lot of people say that's not for me. How
Yeah.
did you see that? Did you see that as a huge risk, or were
So
you very confident?
it's interesting now, and we may have time to get to it of West Coast Capital,
Yes.
and we are risk managers.
Yes.
And I tell you what, every great entrepreneur I've ever met is a risk manager. Everybody
Yes.
thinks they're risk takers. I looked at that business. I said, right, we've paid this, but we had stock of about 25 million.
Mm.
And I said, now the stock wasn't the best stock, which was one of the main reasons they were losing 14 million. But I said, we're going to turn that stock into cash. So a month before Christmas, we're going to put it on TV and actually paid back the bank by the following Easter.
Wow. Okay.
Now, I didn't know I could do it that quick,
Mm.
but I didn't give it a second thought
You just weighed everything up. You
because I
knew.
knew
Yeah.
I'm going to turn that stock into cash. I'm going to pay off the bank, and it's a no brainer.
Yeah. So that's just an interesting dynamic. It's a risk manager. You understand there is risk,
Yes.
but you've managed the downside, the upside,
I
and then
knew
you
my sales per square foot. I knew theirs, and I was twice theirs.
right.
I knew my margin. I knew theirs. I was much better. And I knew my cost to sales ratio. Those were my 3 key performance indicators, my KPIs, and I knew them inside out. And I knew if I got to there, then this was going to be a success.
That's interesting as well. So, and I'm again going back to your days in your dad's shop, and you were looking at what was selling and what's not in the profit. The idea, I mean, I see KPI dashboards now with 50 different things.
Too many.
It's like a jumbo
3,
jet.
Alan.
Three, focus on three,
3.
and you'll know how well you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got to get the right
that's
3, but
yes, yeah, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Interesting. So then, you took this calculated risk. It paid off by the sounds of things. You fired the board of the executives,
Yep.
and off you go. You're the largest in Europe. How did the rest of the journey go? Was that just constant in growth and scaling beyond that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a lot to do.
Mm, yeah, I'm sure.
Learn by doing. My
Yeah, yeah.
goodness, 7,500 people now I'm responsible for.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Now, quite a lot could have gone wrong, and tons went wrong. Tons went wrong. But we one of the big decisions we made, and I still don't know if it was the right decision, but we dropped the Olympus name.
Mm,
It was the best known name in the UK, but I argued it was best known for not having the right stock.
mm. Yeah,
You know, um, and Sports Division wasn't known down south, but we had the right stock.
right.
And I just, probably pig-headedly said, I want to turn them all into sports divisions.
Yeah.
I want to take that out of towns. They were over-footed, so they were twice as big as they needed to be. So I, and one of the first meetings I had, it was probably 3 days in, I met Phil Harris, which was Carpetright, in the House of Lords. And Phil Harris had an encyclopedic knowledge of all the out-of-town retail for his carpet business. And he went, right, Tom, show me what you've got and show me the ones that, and he went through it on the night there and then. I want the left-hand side of that shop in Londonderry. I want the right-hand half of that one in Leicester. And we did the deal there and then.
Wow,
And that, I sold them half the shops.
that's incredible. But yet again, someone else that you'd met. You were just out at an event or something, and
So
you did a
I
deal.
think it was probably through Philip.
Yeah,
Probably through Philip.
yeah, really interesting. And something else that struck me, you went to the US and saw these big
Yeah.
out of town. I remember reading Sam Walton's book a few years ago. I
He's
don't know if
he's my hero.
is he?
Made in
Right.
America.
Yes. But at all times, and I remember reading, he would drive his wife nuts. They'd go on on a holiday somewhere, and he'd just be
Yeah.
walking around with his clipboard, looking at other competitors in stores. He was absolutely obsessed by this. And I think I've known others in the UK who've gone to the US because they just do things bigger there.
Yeah.
And you have a look around, you say, what are the people in my industry doing that we're not doing yet? So was that your plan?
Yeah.
You went to the US to
So
do some research?
so Sam Walton's book, Made in America, is still the best retail book ever written.
Yeah.
The Sam's 10 Rules, I stole them, totally plagiarized them, and they're called Tom's 10 Rules. They still sit in my office
All
today.
right.
And that's the 10 rules for retail. And we ended up going to see Walmart. Unfortunately, Sam had passed by then
Mm.
in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Yes.
That's an interesting place. And
Bit like
but
New Cumnock.
well,
Yeah.
yes, a lot of remnants.
Mm.
But Sam was brilliant. He used to turn up and he would just jump in the truck with the driver
Yeah.
and say, "Take me round."
Mm.
And he said on that journey he would find out, yeah,
Yeah.
that store's not really organized. When I turn up, and he learned so much.
Mm.
And that's what I did with my team. Every Friday we were in the stores. And I would always go round. That retail's a funny business. The lowest paid person deals with your most important person, the customer.
Yeah.
So I'd go round and say to the young lad who's a sales assistant, maybe part-time, "What are we not doing right?" And he would be like, "Oh, Tom, do you want me to tell you the truth?" And I said, "Well, why don't you just tell me the truth? Because it'll save a lot of time." And he would say, "Right, well, on a Friday night, we've run out of Air Max and a size 8." So when I went back for the Monday meeting, everybody would tell me things were great. And I would say, "Well, Newcastle
Mhm.
didn't have Nike Air Max and a size 8 going into their busiest day of the week. You're telling me it's all right. You're wrong. Get your arse into the store."
Interesting, isn't it? Because you're right. And if you've got layers of management, by the time it gets to you and the board, normally everything's wonderful, everything's
Everything's
good.
great.
You're just wondering why you're not making sales in this one
And I
shop.
made a point of taking my two right-hand men, and we were on the road every Friday. I was the only man who dragged his wife round the stores as well, counting shell suits.
Wow, wow,
Uh,
great story. But for sure, anyone who, like I do, like you do, reads books and what that is and yes, it's about retail, but it's about any business.
it's about any
Yeah,
business.
yeah, one of the great, and it's still one of the largest employers, if not the largest employer in the US.
Biggest retail in the world.
Yeah, in the world.
Maybe Amazon, maybe,
But they're neck and neck.
yeah.
Those two, yeah, incredible business. So let's move the story
There's a lot going
forward.
on here.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm trying to
I
keep it all
actually
going.
can't believe it happened to me, but anyway, I hope I'm not making this up. No.
Yeah, yeah, no, talking about yourself. So at some point, we all know that this ended, or there was a transition in terms of you sold the business. Tell
Yeah,
me the story leading up to that. What was on your mind? Did you decide you wanted to get out?
no,
No. Okay.
no. So we were the biggest. JJB were the second biggest by Dave Whelan, another great entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But he was on the stock market, so
They were listed.
he had
Yeah.
a currency,
Right.
and we were huge rivals. This
Did you
was.
know him? Would you sort of meet up with him?
Uh,
Not
oh
really.
no,
No.
it was
You
warfare.
oh, okay, right.
I loved it. I always remember he was based in Wigan,
Yeah.
and I, I, I said to Ian, who acquired the properties, I said, "I want that Robin Retail Park in Wigan, and I want the 48 sheet, so that when Dave drives to his office every morning, he sees Sports Division, and it pisses him." I think that might have made him buy the business.
Yes,
I
that
don't
was
know
it.
that.
Yeah.
I've never asked him, but Dave was a great entrepreneur. Started in the markets.
Yes.
Sold his first business to Morrison's, I think. He was
Mm,
on market stalls and stuff. So, but no, we were fierce competitors.
okay.
And I had looked at floating, um, but it wasn't for me.
Why was that?
Psychologically not attuned to being a public company. And it's something I coach now. Most entrepreneurs shouldn't float.
Yes.
There are
Well, you lose
many
control,
there
don't
are
you? You've got
many other
shareholders.
sources of finance. Every piece of finance comes with strings.
Yeah.
The strings of a public company are too many for an entrepreneur,
Right.
and it changes the mindset. And it's something we do because we're in the private equity business. And
Mm,
if ever this private equity acquire your business because of you and then try and change it, what a stupid thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a stupid thing to do. We
Mm.
want to help you do
Sure.
more of it.
Mm.
Don't want to change you. In
But
a,
in the public
in
markets,
a
you can get
public
that.
market, they're going to change you.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway,
So you've ruled that out.
I've ruled it out, but it's been in the
Yeah, sure.
marketplace. I'm at an entrepreneurial exchange conference, and my phone goes, and it's Dave Whelan. Now we haven't really spoken,
Mm.
and he's very direct, Dave, probably even more direct than me. And he's like, Tom, you're not going to float. No, I'm not, Dave. No. Do you want to sell it? And I said, no, I'll buy you. What do you mean? You're an old man. I'm a youngster. I'll buy you. I was 37.
Wow. Yeah. Young.
And I went, no, Dave, no, I'm not interested. But do you want to sell? You know,
Yeah.
that was my usual aggressive way
Yeah.
back. And he went, listen, calm down. If you change your mind, you know where I am.
Mm.
So I went back to my room. It was in St Andrews, and I was just on my own. And the thought of selling had never. I mean, that I was very proud of what I'd done. And
Yeah.
big employer in Scotland, and
Yeah.
things were good. We were making a lot of money. Within 30 minutes, I had decided that's what I wanted to do, and I don't know why. I'm sorry, I can't give you the
See, it was
insight.
just something that came to you, didn't cross your mind. He phoned you. You tell him to
Beat it.
beat it. Then you have a think and you say, do you know what? Maybe I should.
And I phoned my wife, Marion,
Yeah.
and I said, listen, this is what's happened. And she said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, you're not going to believe it, but I'm thinking. And she went, whatever you want to do, you haven't been wrong so far, do it.
Hmm. So what happened? You called him back.
So, yeah, I called him back. He flew up to Troon,
Uh-huh. Right.
landed at Prestwick in his own
Yes.
plane. I didn't have my own plane. And we agreed everything, Alan.
Just the two of you.
Yeah,
Just around
my
the table.
my
Yeah.
FD was with me.
Yeah. Okay.
He'd his FD with him.
Yeah.
And Dave was a great man of a handshake.
Right.
And we agreed everything apart from, he said, look, you know I'm going to move it to Wigan. And I said, yeah. Mm. He said, so I only want your distribution centre, big place, lots of jobs
Mm.
for 6 months. So you buy it back. And I went, right, okay, so what's the value? And he said one figure, and I said, no, that's a different figure. So we were 3 million apart.
Okay.
And this is how naive I was. I said, Dave, fly back to Wigan. I'm not agreeing. And he went, are you kidding me? I mean, it was £296 million. I was going to turn it down for 3. How stupid was I? But I was determined.
Okay.
And we went in front of Prestwick Airport, and he said, right, come on, lad. Come on.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing here? And I went, I know what I'm doing. I'm putting you in the plane. You're going
You're
back to
off.
Wigan. He went, I'll toss you for it.
Really?
And I went, what? He said, toss a coin. If you win, you get your prize. If I win, I get my prize. I went, really? I said, well, I'm tossing the coin. And he went, all right. And I won.
Wow. Fantastic.
And he never chipped the prize 1 penny.
He shook hands on it.
He
Did
shook
the
my
deal.
hand, and Dave did the deal.
Fantastic.
I was 37 years old. But I would have let it go for 3 million,
That's incredible.
which is so stupid. Don't ever do that.
But the outcome was good. The outcome was positive. Who knows what would have happened if that coin had come down on the other side?
I
You'd
mean,
have walked away, and he'd have walked away.
no, it was either he got it or I got it, and that was the
Right.
deal.
Right.
So
Okay.
I would have honoured the deal.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the deal was done.
Deal was done.
Contract was concluded. Money changed hands.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Terrible. 500 people losing their jobs in Ayrshire. I was a pariah.
I remember that.
Um,
You got
I
a
had,
lot of negative
I
publicity in
had
the
to s-
Scottish press.
I had to send my wife and kids away. There was journalists camping out in my hedge. They had to go to France. I was there, and everybody hated me. And I said, Christ, this isn't the way I thought it would be. And yeah, it was a very hard time.
Did you stay? You stayed in the country then? Did
Yeah.
you just sort of?
I went in and I just opened my door and I said, "Anybody who wants to come and see me can come and see me.
Right.
You can shout at me, you can tell me what."
Mm,
And I said the same thing because quite a few people come in.
yeah.
Um, and I said, "What would you do?"
Mm,
And everybody went,
the same thing.
"Yeah,
Of course.
but you're still a
Yeah.
see you next
Expletive.
Tuesday." Yeah.
Yes. I was intrigued. Did you treat yourself? Did you buy something nice? You like your cars, don't you?
I do. Initially, I didn't because I wasn't happy. I'd paid people off, people I knew, people I had built the business with me, and it was miserable.
Mm,
Um, but I knew I, I wasn't leaving the country. I wasn't going to evade my
mm,
tax. My wife was the brains, and she said, "We're not going to Monaco." I said, "You'd be a prisoner." And she said, "By the way, I'm not bringing my children. I didn't seem to be part of it up in Monaco. I'm bringing them up in Scotland." And I went, "You're right. Okay, but they
mhm.
are my kids as well."
Yeah.
And um, and I knew I wasn't running away from it, Alan. But
Mm,
everybody thought, well, yeah.
yeah.
And it made me doubly determined
Mm,
to make sure that we did give something back in
yeah.
Scotland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so gradually we got more comfortable with it, and we set up the foundation, and we set up West Coast Capital,
Mm,
and you know that began to work, and people began to see, oh well, maybe he's not as bad as we thought he was.
mm. It's an interesting time. I've spoken to many exited founders at all different levels. Some take to life after business sale quite well, but a lot struggle because, and
Yeah.
particularly with you, as you said earlier on, you've never had a job as such. You've never had another
No,
a boss or an employer. So it was your entire life. I know you're only young, 37 at the time,
37,
but
two
still,
kids, two young
yeah,
kids.
married, two kids,
Yeah.
wealthy now. You know,
Yeah. Or belong beyond
you,
any
yeah,
dreams.
yeah,
And but we made a couple of big decisions, my wife and I.
right,
One, we decided that I still wanted to be in business, not because of the money, but because I liked doing it.
mm,
I liked the competition. I liked, you know, building teams and doing that. And we are also going to have the foundation.
yeah,
And we decided that we weren't going to leave our kids burdened with too much money.
mm,
And I heard you speaking to another one of
yeah.
your guests, and Warren Buffett actually gave me that advice personally.
Did he?
I don't know if we'll have time to tell you the story, but he basically,
Please do tell us. Tell us
no,
now.
no, my wife and I subsequently signed the Giving Pledge with Buffett and Gates, Bill
Yeah.
Gates. Um, and I tried to meet Warren Buffett all my life, all my business life. And, getting through to Omaha and saying, "Yeah, I happened to be in Omaha." And the secretary would say, "Oh, when are you?" I said, "When do you want me?"
Yeah.
And she went, "That doesn't work." And then when we went to the Giving Pledge, the first night, I've been amongst all my heroes in life, and I sat down, and sat next to me was Warren Buffett.
Wow.
Wow. And I said, "Oh my God, I've been trying to see you. You're a hard man." And he's so brilliant and so common sense. And I said, "What about kids? Bringing them up with abundance?" And he said, "Leave them enough that they do something, not too much they do nothing." And
Yes.
and and the other thing he said that night was, "Your kids are watching."
Mm,
And I said, I don't get it. What do you mean?" He said, "If you're on tables spraying champagne, your kids will see it. If you're putting stuff back into your community, your kids will see it.
mm,
Your kids are watching."
yeah. Be a role model.
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine that, getting direct advice
Wow.
from, yeah, the
Yeah.
legend, Warren Buffett. Fantastic. What a story.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. So there you are, that situation. Oh, that's just before we go on, the foundation, which I do want to speak about. Had you thought about that before you were selling, or was it more something that happened over the
No, I
time?
mean, we had been a good employer
Yeah.
until I paid everybody off,
Yeah.
Christ almighty. And we'd been a good community, but from my dad,
Mm, yeah.
but I had no time to do it properly. So people would phone in, "Can you give us football strips for the local team?" "Yeah, here we go. Can you give me this?" And I never knew if it was a scam or whatever, because never
Mm,
had time, we were busy, but we always
yeah.
did our bit. And then because I hadn't planned to sell, it was a checklist with the accountants. Have you got a charitable foundation? No. Right. Well, that's a good way.
Okay.
All right, I'll have one of them.
Right. Okay.
But then I got serious about it.
Mm.
And I went to America. Andrew Carnegie, my philanthropic hero, Scott,
Yep.
left Dunfermline in abject poverty. Long story short, became the richest man in the world when he went to Pittsburgh and formed US Steel. And when Andrew Carnegie sat with J.P. Morgan, John Pierpont Morgan, and he was a feisty character, both of them, and Morgan was buying US Steel, and afterwards they were sitting having a whiskey, and they said, Andrew, I would have paid more for your business. And Carnegie looked at him and said, I would have taken less.
That was like you and Dave Whelan all
It
these years
wa-
later.
I know.
Yeah.
So I knocked on the door of the Carnegie Corporation of New York, and I said, can I see the president? And the woman was like, well, who are you? Have you got an appointment? I said, I don't have an appointment, but I've got time. I'll wait. And I met, and it's again, you got to turn up. I met the most influential person in my philanthropic life, the president of the Carnegie Corporation of New York, called Vartan Gregorian, no longer with us. And Vartan invited me in, listened to my story, and he basically said, okay. He said, you got to find a purpose for this money. An individual shouldn't have this amount of money.
Mm.
And go and learn to be a good ancestor.
Right.
And I said, who is this crazy guy, you know? So, but anyway, a very long story short, he ended up coming on to my board of trustees,
Right.
which was huge. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he's advised Clinton, he's advised Gates, he'd
Yeah.
advised, and he was now one of my trustees. And but you got to turn up.
You showed up there.
You
You
got to
knocked
turn
on the
up.
door.
Brass neck.
Yeah. Incredible. What a story. Before we go on, I mean, we will explore about the other things that you're doing now. Look, we talk a lot about success, and I know that you're very humble about this, but you're, I think it's right in saying you're Scotland's first homegrown billionaire. So by any
I
measure,
was, not
you
anymore.
were right. You're the first, maybe, but you've had incredible success, personally, professionally, financially, and the rest of it. And everyone loves the big stories. How'd you get rich? And all
Yeah.
the millionaires and billionaires. It can't have always been, an upward, journey the whole time.
No.
I'd like to spend a minute, if you don't mind, just talking about failure.
Yeah.
Hi, just a quick pause. If you're getting value from this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit subscribe and leave a rating or a review. It's honestly the best way to support the show, to help more people find it, and to make sure that future episodes get even better based on your feedback. Thanks for being here, and now back to the show.
Have you?
I-
Have you?
I actually love talking about failure.
Right.
You learn far more from failure than you do success. Success is a lousy teacher. It makes you think you're better than you are. And boy, did I learn that lesson hard. So, selling 98, set up West Coast Capital, looking at what we could do. And the thesis of West Coast Capital, and you've been in wealth management, will
Yeah.
understand what was my edge.
Mm.
So I sat and thought about it a lot. Plenty of people have more brains than me. Plenty of people have more money than me. What is it I've got? Well, I understand the entrepreneur
Mm.
because I've been one. And I decided that we were going to back exceptional founders, regardless of sector. It was all about the entrepreneur. And I was betting on our ability to read and help that entrepreneur. So that's fine. So we then go through 2000, 2005, 2000, and we're doing lots of deals, right?
Mhm.
And it's just a bit too easy.
What are you doing? Like venture investing?
Yeah,
So just
we're
throwing
we're
money into
we're
startups.
we're we're fine. Not
No, no,
startups, no,
no. But
too risky.
yeah,
For us.
right.
And we're we're backing property entrepreneurs, Nick Leslaw, buying and selling billions of pounds worth of stuff. Where I've bought office shoes, we've trebled the size of it, invested in House of Fraser, we've bought, so I've got 53 highly leveraged investments. And then the great financial crisis hits. and Bank of Scotland, who had been my banker all along, want their money back, and I can't give it to them. And all the people of my relationships, they've all gone. And I'm now sitting opposite somebody from Lloyd's because they took them over and saying, well, what are we going to do? So, and that is a humbling experience, first of all, humbling. And it's all down to me. It was my fault, my decisions. The buck stops at me. And I reckon through the great financial crisis, still can't quite add it up, but I reckon I lost £250 million. And it was a lesson.
Yes.
It was a lesson. And people ask me, oh, Christ, how do you deal with that? I said, well, you deal with it the same way you deal with anything. You know, first of all, you completely think you're the worst person in the world. And you've let everybody down. And what am I going to do? And but then you just sit. And so I had to sit with the people at Lloyd's. And I went through a couple who were just saying, we want it back or we're going to bust all this.
Yeah.
And I've said, well, there's the keys. On you go.
Yeah.
Because I tell you something, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So they didn't like that. But then I got to the right person, the head of it all, a guy called Andy Cumming. And he set a couple of tasks for me. They were tests, really. And I only know this looking back because it all worked out. And he asked me to sell a business. And I said, well, we're 3 years too early. And I reckon we're selling at 100 million short. And he went, maybe so, but I'm asking you to sell it. And I did it.
Okay.
And then he came to me and he said, right, okay, you've passed the test. I said, well, what was the test? And he said, well, you can now buy back your own debt from the bank. And that's the second best deal I've ever done in my life.
Okay.
And, but getting on with him and me proving to him that I'm a man of my word. And if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And even though it was 100 million, but they wanted the money.
Yeah.
So the money went to them. And I've learned the lesson.
Yeah. Well, you learned it the hard way and it was expensive, but you've come out the other side.
And now we don't borrow any money.
Right.
I keep money in the bank. I led the bank's money and I sleep at night.
Interesting. A recurring theme in this podcast is resilience. Now, I mean, I know you probably don't want me to do this, but cast your mind back. Look, the whole world was in turmoil. Let's face it. I mean, I'm down in London as the queuing around the block of Northern Rock and everything. I think the entire system is about to collapse.
Yeah.
So it's tough for anyone in business, but it must be
Yeah.
particularly tough if you owe the bank hundreds of millions. I mean, how did you get through it? Do you remember the process? You wake up in the morning and you're just stressed. And
Oh, yeah.
how did you get through it?
So, one, I think it's your makeup and that's your luck. That's the nature of it. So, I'm not a stressful person. I mean, don't get me wrong. Losing that money is stressful. But I had to look at myself in the mirror every morning and say, right, I couldn't show weakness to my team. Because if I was going, we're in the do that, then they're going to go, say, no, just take it one day at a time. Let's get through it. We'll get small wins here. I'm going to sort the bank. You sort the assets. Come on. So I had to put on my game face, even when I didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
That's quite hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and as you said earlier on, so that was a great lesson. Prior to that, look, there's no doubt there was a few bumps in the road as you were growing sports division.
Huge.
But success, you don't learn much from success. If you become successful, you don't know which part of it was the success. Was it because we did this or did that? But when you have an experience like that, you know, and that's changed your entire business operation. How you
what were my lessons? Stick to my knitting.
Yeah.
Don't get over leveraged, and now we don't have any leverage.
Yeah.
And just keep humble. I got carried away. I did.
Yeah.
I did.
It happens, doesn't it?
It happens.
It's like you've got the golden touch.
But
Everything
I got
you
a
do
gunk.
works.
It was pretty. I fell from quite a high height.
Yeah.
But I bounced.
You did. You did.
I bounced.
Interesting.
And when people ask me, and you might not believe this, I'm glad it happened.
You weren't at the time, but looking back, because you've come out the other side, So you can look back on that, and
Yes.
you got taught a few lessons.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Tom. So where are we now? We've got
Where are we now?
yeah, we've got the Hunter Foundation.
Yes.
We've got West Coast Capital.
Yes.
Well, those the two kind of entities that,
Yeah.
that are driving your activity right now? So tell us,
Yes.
and we've talked about it a little bit before, but let's sort of explain exactly what those organizations do.
So basically, they are part of the same equation. We don't need any more money as a family, but I still want to be in business and make money. And the thing that's changed in the past 4 years is my eldest son has come into the business. That was never encouraged and never.
Mm.
I didn't even think about it,
Mm.
but it's been brilliant, and it's changed. It's changed the longevity of West Coast Capital. And the most interesting question my son asked me when he joined was, "What is it you do?"
Yeah.
And if I and you think, well, that's an easy one to answer. I'm still working it out because every step along the way, I mean, I haven't been taught to do this.
Mm.
You just go and try it and
Yeah.
see what happens. Um, so if we make profit in West Coast Capital, it flows into the foundation. And the foundation is now given about 150 million. And what we're doing in the foundation, basically, um, we believe a couple of firm beliefs. The best social policy ever written by any government is a best paid job,
Mm.
decent paid job.
Right.
It gives people purpose, it gives them a reason to get up in the morning, and it makes the world go round. Who creates the jobs today? My belief is that it is smaller entrepreneurial companies because of the pace of change in the world today, because of AI coming now. Big companies can't deal with this pace of change. Who's dealing with it? Entrepreneurs.
Mm.
So we have got a unbridled passion to help entrepreneurs grow and start and grow their businesses. And we do that. We've bought a castle in Scotland, in Ayrshire, and we bring people together, entrepreneurs
Mhm.
at different levels,
Mhm.
um, and they learn from each other. And we
Mhm.
bring in speakers, and we want them to grow quicker with less risk, create the jobs, and let Scotland prosper. Let's not say make Scotland great again, because somebody's already had that.
Yes.
And but that's a real passion for us. And we use the castle for bringing people together. So we're putting every head teacher in Scotland through a leadership academy at the castle. So teachers learn and support each other. So I've met you for the first time. You're in Inverness. I'm in Ayr. I'm struggling with an exclusion of a pupil,
Mm.
and you say, "Well, this is how I dealt with it." You know,
Creating that
it's just
community,
it's
going
just
right back to education as
education
well.
because
Yep.
that's the key.
That's where it starts.
So that's what we're doing in the foundation.
And are you investing through West Coast Capital? Are you investing in these entrepreneurs, I say, at different levels?
Sometimes, but
No, but
that's that's
no. All
that's not
right.
the
So, but you're
purpose.
creating the community to
Yes,
do that.
and we have our conference. Our conference is next week up at Gleneagles Founders Conference. We've got Mike Chitania, who we've backed to buy Body Shop.
Right.
Mike's a brilliant entrepreneur. Again, it's all about the entrepreneur for us.
Yeah.
We've got Chris Evans. He's in cancer discovery drugs. Again, what do we know about that? Nothing, but I've known Chris 30 years.
Right.
He's doing amazing things in that space. We've got the chief exec of Greg's coming up. She's brought
She's
up in
great. I've read about
brought,
her.
brought up in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Was on the shop
Yeah.
floor. Now the boss of Greg's. She's
Yeah.
there. We've got Greg Jackson, Octopus
Octopus.
Energy.
Mm.
So it's a real disruptors conference. Um, and the purpose of the conference is education and inspiration. So what we're trying to do is build a movement of people who want to grow their business. I've got a community to call upon because it's a lonely thing.
Mm.
And hopefully they can grow their businesses quicker with less risk, create the jobs, pay the tax, and get
Yeah.
on with it. Not too much tax.
You've teed me up. You've teed me up for the next question. Well, first of all, congratulations. That sounds exactly what the community needs, what entrepreneurs need,
And we love it.
and what the country
And we
needs.
love it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Really is good. I'm putting a sort of a date stamp. By the time this recording goes out, we will be, I think, a week or two before the budget.
Wow.
So, I'm not sure if you got the hotline to Rachel
I don't
Reeves.
know.
No. Obvious question. What advice would you give Rachel as she prepares to deliver her
Yeah.
budget to the country?
So, politicians, and it's a hard job,
Yeah.
right? First of all, let's acknowledge running the country is a hard job.
It's the hardest job.
It's the hardest job, and we want the best people doing it. And I don't think we really encourage that because they get so much flack, etc. We do these studies, and we looked at Singapore. What can Scotland and
Yeah.
UK learn from Singapore? Singapore pays its equivalent of Prime Minister $1.6 million a year. So I will leave it there. So what am I telling Rachel? I'm saying you want to grow the economy. There's only two things you can do. You can grow the tax take, not the tax rate, the tax take. And remember, governments don't have money. They take money from you and me and hardworking business people and hardworking people who pay their taxes, pay their NI, and then they decide how to allocate that capital across the spending. So you can either increase the tax take or decrease the spending. Now, Rachel Reeves is in a difficult position because she's a Labour politician. And when she goes to start cutting some of the stuff, the MPs go, no, over my dead body.
Yeah.
But no country has ever taxed its way to growth. And that's why I was so disappointed at the NI going up.
Yeah.
For employers, that's a tax on jobs.
Mm.
That's a tax that's going to stymie growth. And even worse than that, people who would have been growing businesses and employing people are actually paying people off, cutting their hours because they can't afford it. Those people then get benefits. So it's a double whammy. And why don't these politicians understand it? It's not that difficult to understand. So she needs a tax system, and we're chasing away the non-doms. Now, a lot of people go, rich people, bye-bye, good riddance. What I say is it just takes one of these really rich people who spend and invest in Britain. And I worked out that one of these people were paying the benefits of about 50,000 people. So when they leave Britain and everybody's going good riddance, who's going to pick up the bill? So I want a country that absolutely values wealth creators, gets the tax take up. We need more of them, not less of them, Alan. And the tax take will go up and then unleash the animal spirits of entrepreneurs. They are the answer. And then look at the spending. Of course, we want to take care of people who can't take care of themselves. Of course we do. But I think the pendulum swung too much. There's a great podcast by Arthur Laffer. I'm sure you watched it. And Laffer, the Laffer curve. So the more you put taxes up, the less you actually take.
Yeah.
And he said a very simple thing. If you tax people greater for working and you pay people not to work, guess what happens?
Yeah, exactly. It's the human condition.
So,
Yeah.
Chancellor,
Yeah.
my phone is always on 24/7.
Rachel, give him a call.
And as Warren Buffett used to say, if your phone don't ring, you'll know it's me.
Yeah. Very good. No, I think that's super well said. And all the entrepreneurial community, the people I know, the people that you know, I'm sure, we all say the same thing. They're not trying to avoid taxes. They'd happily pay taxes, but an environment of growth and support
Yes.
and positivity. We all want to grow, but when you're just fighting headwinds the whole time.
And the big one, Alan, has been inheritance tax.
Yes.
And I've got a couple of pals. Do you know something? And this might be controversial. I don't believe any of them want to leave Britain. Britain is a great place. Scotland's a great place. London's a great place. We all have a moan, but it's a great place.
Agree.
We know the culture. We know the law. It's a wonderful place. There's not one of these people who are leaving who really want to leave and go and live in Dubai or somewhere. And if it was reasonable tax, they would stay here in a heartbeat. That's my firm belief. It might be controversial.
No, I completely agree
but
with that.
that's
No,
what I believe.
most people wouldn't want to leave the UK to live in Dubai. If Dubai had the same
Go on
taxes
holiday.
as us,
Go on
they
holiday.
might go on holiday, but if Dubai had the same tax rates as us, no one would be going there to live. That's the
No.
case. You're absolutely right. But you said particularly inheritance tax. That's the real.
Because, if I'm passing, which I didn't think I was going to, but if
Mm,
I'm passing my business to my son,
mm,
I have got to sell 40% to pay the tax.
yeah.
And the poor farmers who are asset rich and cash poor, they're trying to, a line of farmers. How do they find that money to? They can't.
Mm,
And this is where I believe politicians need to get good advice. They need to turn up.
yeah.
They need to go and listen to a farmer. They need to go and listen to an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And when I was on Question Time, I I made the offer to the head of the Treasury to come and sit. If the phone don't ring, I'll know it was him.
The phone didn't ring.
Why? Why? I don't
Imagine
expect.
getting that opportunity
I don't
from you to
expect.
speak.
I don't expect politicians know everything. I don't know everything,
Of course.
but I know quite a lot about a narrow subject.
Yes.
So why wouldn't they listen? There's nothing in it for me.
And I'm sure over the years, if there was areas that you didn't know too much about, and as you're growing your business, you go and speak to an expert.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not.
I, I'm the first to say I don't know anything about that, but let me find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And politicians, I I think they're worried the electorate look and say, oh well, you don't know. I think it would be such empowering for the chancellor to be asked a question and go, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'll find out.
Yeah. No, exactly. That would be that's
Unusual.
wishful thinking. Uh,
Yeah.
as we kind of wind up, it's a great conversation. Really appreciate your time. I'm thinking over the years, you've mentioned a few resources and books and things like that that have been inspiring to you over the years. If you were to be speaking to a younger entrepreneur or someone a few years behind you, have been any particular book or resource or movie or something you
Okay.
would say
Yep.
you must read it? Well, you mentioned
Yes.
Sam Walton's book as a
Yep.
that's an essential. That's a
Amazing.
must read
So,
for
so
any.
first of all, I've always got 3 books in a go at one time.
Right.
When my son joined, when Jamie joined, I said, you've got to read Warren Buffett's letter to his shareholders. It starts in 1961. Read every letter. It's free. It's on the internet.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. The next thing is Morgan Housel,
Yes.
Psychology of Money.
Brilliant book.
Brilliant book. And I'm trying to get all my kids to read it. And it was Jamie who brought that book to me.
Mhm.
And brilliant book.
Yeah.
I've just read his most recent one. It's not quite as good
No.
as Psychology of
It's about
Money.
spending.
It's about
Yeah.
spending, and didn't like it as much. But Psychology of Money, oh, amazing,
Yes.
amazing. And then just because I'm of a certain age, Barbarians at the Gate, the story of KKR private equity firm taking over RGR and Nabisco, probably still the biggest leverage buyout of all time, is a masterpiece. And
Yeah.
I got my son to read it as well.
Very good. 3 classics.
Classics.
Amazing books. Thanks for sharing those. Last question.
Right.
It's a question I ask everyone, and you are well able to answer this, I think. But it's a concept. We've talked about money. We've talked about wealth. We've talked about all the successes you've had, and some of the challenges. I reflect on the concept of true wealth. Tom, how would you describe? How would you define true wealth?
Yeah. I think it's the ability to decide how you spend your time. Time. Now, I get to a certain part of my life where I've probably got more money than time. So it's becoming very interesting to me. But being able to spend the time, I'm now a granddad.
Congratulations.
So, trying to make up for maybe not being about for my kids. But anyway,
Mhm.
so the ability to decide how you spend your time.
Mm.
That's a huge privilege.
Yes.
Huge privilege.
Yes. Well said. So, Tom Hunter, I just want to say honestly, on behalf of the entrepreneurial community in Scotland, but across the UK, I'm a Scot living in London
Yeah.
for however many years. You're so inspiring. You know, we hadn't met until now, but the work you've done, the success story, because it's a kind of rags to riches. I know, you know, from the very, let's face it, humble beginnings, and people should check out New Cumnock and
Well,
and go and
yes.
visit. It wouldn't take you long to see the attractions, but
Mm.
you know, it was a humble beginning. You've enjoyed, you know, incredible success, but you're really in the zone of giving back now, which I think is
Yeah.
fantastic what you're doing. So I really want to say that from my heart. Really appreciate what you're doing.
Well, first of all, it's a privilege to do what I do. Being able to think about, right, how do we help, and then have the resources to help.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. And I'll just leave you with this one thought. The the buzz I get from actually giving and helping is bigger than any financial deal I've ever done, ever.
Wow.
So good luck to everybody who's listening. Just keep going, never give up, and good luck.
Thank you so much.